Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hopefully you still here and have lunch. Hopefully you enjoy it. And welcome. I would like to say welcome to Professor Akram Hureri, Associate Professor Dr. Merkon Sifairi, Dr. Muhammad Samsuri, MD Saad. Before we proceed the first international symposium on engineering and technology in disaster mitigation, I want to inform the participant that before we go, I want to remind you that please turn off your audio and still focus. In the second session, I want to invite Professor Muhammad Akram Hureri from AUIOU University, Pakistan, to deliver his presentation. Time is yours, please. Please, Professor Akram. Are you there? Can you hear us?
Yes. Assalamualaikum. How are you? How are you, sir? Assalamualaikum.
Could you please turn off your devices, another device?
Yes, I am coming.
We cannot hear you clearly.
Yes, Muhammad Akram is present here. Now yes. You can hear me?
Yes, of course. Okay, please.
Yes. 1 minute, please. Yes, Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. Greeting to all the participants in this conference, especially Brother Dr. Muhammad Ismail and Didi Hayu and other persons who are present here. My topic for this international symposium is the arrangement of the government of Pakistan regarding to COVID-19. My name is Muhammad Akram Hureri. I am from Allama Iqbal Open University, Islamabad, and lecturer of Tafsir at the Knowledge International University. That is the online university located in Saudi Arabia. So, all persons knows the COVID-19 pandemic is the international disease that is spread all over the countries in the world. So, in this regard, Pakistan is also much affected countries. The arrangement and facilitations by the government, as other countries were given to their peoples, here also were facilitated the peoples of the Pakistan. The government of Pakistan keenly observe it and work it and provide the facilities as soon as possible to the people of the countries. As we know, the COVID-19 disease caused by a new strain coronavirus As
Excuse me, Professor, may I bother you? Could you please to slide show your presentation?
slides are not present,
Slideshow.
I share. I shared the slides.
I mean, uh, to full screen.
Okay, okay, full screen.
Make F5. Please press F5.
F5.
Yeah, thank
Now,
you. Yes, please.
yes, now I can understand that the screen is totally shared to the audience. It is okay?
Yes, okay,
Okay,
please.
thank you, sir. Thank you. The COVID-19 is a disease. Uh, the COVID-19 is a disease. 1 minute. One, COVID-19 is a disease caused by a new strain of coronavirus. As we know that CO stands for corona and VI for virus and D for disease. Formerly, this disease was referred to as 2099, so it is called the COVID-19. There are two main routes of the transmissions of the COVID-19 virus, respiratory and contact. Respiratory droplets are generated when an infected person coughs or sneezes. Most people who are infected with the COVID-19 virus have respiratory symptoms. They start to feel the little bit unwell. They will have a fever. They may have a cough or sore the throat or sneeze. In some individuals, they may have gastrointestinal symptoms. Others may lose the sense of smell or sense of taste. These are the some symptoms that we can feel in our body or the person who is affected with coronavirus. COVID-19 in Pakistan. What is the situation in COVID-19 of Pakistan? According to the Ministry of Health, Government of Pakistan are confirmed positive cases are 7,182,89 in whole countries, with critical cases 3,769 and death cases are the 15,026 on Wednesday yesterday, April 7, 2021. The total recovered cases are 62,789. So the highest cases pointed out in the province of Sindh, 26,000, 2,67,238, followed by province. These are the province parts of the Pakistan. Pakistans have 4 provinces and 2 independent states, Gilgit-Baltistan and Azad Jammu Kashmir. So I have to present the data of these 6 regions. These are the main 6 regions of Pakistan. So the highest cases pointed out in the province of Sindh, that is the province of the Pakistan, followed by the province Punjab, 2,37,594, province of KPK, and that is called Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, 93,862. Balochistan, that is the big island of the Pakistan, province of the Pakistan by 2 lakh, the total cases of this province, 19,942, Gilgit-Baltistan, 5,064, federal area of the Pakistan, that is called Islamabad, 62,775. Azad Jammu Kashmir have 13,713 confirmed cases were found in these regions. The result have been shown in the figure details, and we can check this data on the website NCOC. The whole details are available at this website. So in 24 hours, what is the ratio increasing in Pakistan in 24 hours? So in 24 hours, 4,004 cases are increasing, in which the death cases are 102, and total tests are being conducted in 24 hours, 41,699. So the total tests that are conducted nowadays, these are the figure you can show at the screen. So this is the table that is the shown cases, recovered cases, and death cases in region-wise of the Pakistan. So the Sindh is the province of Pakistan, and the cases here were found 2,67,000, and here 24 per hour, increasing the cases, 312 cases are increasing in 24 hours, in which recovered cases 2,57,000, and 24 per hour ratio is 116. Death cases are seen 4,515, in which the ratio per day is 6 persons per day are going to be death. Punjab is the big province by counting of the people. Here 2,38,000 cases were found, in which 2025 or 24 per hour ratio are increasing the cases here. And recovered cases from this region, 1,98,000, and per day recovering cases are 856. At this region, 6,731 cases till yesterday are going to be death, and daily routine in 24 hours, 56 cases are counted going to be death. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Islamabad federal area and Gilgit-Baltistan and Balochistan, these are all details that are shown in the table. The upper case is total, and the lower with sign plus is the daily basis cases that are increasing in our countries. So in the situation when the coronavirus is spreading and daily basis cases are increasing, what are the strategies of Pakistan and arrangement of Pakistan against the COVID-19, regarding the COVID-19, and what are the arrangements? So a little I presented in this presentation as shown. Arrangement by the government of Pakistan regarding to COVID-19. The government of Pakistan is taking all measures against the COVID-19, regarding to the COVID-19, to prevent and ensure the responsibility, to provide the ensure and responsibilities of the state for their people. Since the first day when the first case was confirmed in the Pakistan big city, Karachi, of Sindh, that is the city of Sindh, all the services and measures were used with extreme capability to ensure the protections of life in the region, in the state. Meanwhile, all cases have a tribal history suggesting transmissions elsewhere being imported in the country. The government of Pakistan provides the COVID-19 mitigation strategies and tracing and tracking of the context, risk communication, social distancing, quarantine, isolations to avoid the spread of COVID-19. These strategies also used here as other countries compared are used in their region. So first of all, government of Pakistan establish a COVID-19 relief fund to receive the donations for the welfare of the publics. What cost is using on the affected persons and what is the coming for those persons. So this activity is found in Pakistan. So the social network introduced the helplines, launched the helpline, and even in the local languages, Pakistani language is Urdu language, and mostly persons can understand the English language. But here are main 7 languages and multiple local languages are here. So the main 7 local languages also transfer this data for awareness regarding to COVID-19. So government has established the first trial through COVID-19 testing facility in Karachi because the first case is also appeared in Karachi. Lockdown policy were introduced, and then because of the persons who are affected by economically, so smart lockdown was also introduced in our country. Smart lockdown, some activities reduce and some activities are going to as routine matter. So smart lockdown was also implemented in the whole country according to the situation. Nowadays, smart lockdown is also continued in affected countries. So in whole countries, there is no lockdown because where the ratio of increasing COVID-19 person above 12%, there were implemented the lockdown policy. So in our province, Punjab, 9 cities are affected and there is the lockdown. So during the lockdown, all the activities are suspended like marriage ceremony, education activities, functions and gatherings and Durushul Quran and gathering anywhere and transportations also. So use of masks and sanitizers is also compulsory at every places. SOPs are strictly followed by the peoples during these days. Social distancing strictly applicable at every places. Quarantine center were also made on emergency basis. So these were the steps regarding to COVID-19 that was taken by the government of Pakistan. So the hospitals for treatment of the COVID-19 persons. Arrangement to fight regarding the COVID-19, there are lots of measures being taken by the government of Pakistan to control the outbreaks and facilitate their people. There were many hospitals being working in the scenario to bring back the life and fight regarding the deadly outbreak of COVID-19 in the country. Quarantine centers were also established at outside area of the country, where all medications facilities were provided to the affected persons. Hospitals and isolations ward in these days COVID-19 isolation is a different from quarantine, and its separations of the ill are infected person from the other, so as the prevent the spread of infections. These hospitals used for isolation for COVID-19. People were widely disturbed in provinces which arise a good gesture which being used in this scenario throughout Pakistan to control the outbreak of the COVID-19. The distributions of the hospitals being used for isolation on city basis. So at the ABC days, starting days of the COVID-19 in Islamabad, that is the capital area of the Pakistan, there were being only one medical facility used for isolation with the capacity of 10 beds. In the province of the Balochistan, 14 cities, each of them having medical facilities regarding COVID-19, while some districts, some cities have more than single hospital. In the province of the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, that is the called also KPK, have 33 cities, districts. There were 110 medical facilities functional. In the province of the Punjab, there are 34 cities. There were also 50 medical facilities functions. In the province of Sindh, in the 4 cities, 4 medical facilities were functioned. So this is the data, and that is data the shown in the table in next slide. The number of the bed and capacity of the patient depend on the COVID-19 positive cases, so they were arranged. So this is the ratio. The lower bar that is showing ISB, that is the capital area of the Pakistan. Balochistan is the province, KPK is the province, Punjab is the province, and SD Sindh is the province, and GB Gilgit-Baltistan is the independent state that is affiliated to Pakistan, and Azad and Jammu Kashmir, that is also independent state affiliated to Pakistan. So the isolation facilities countrywide is shown in this table. Quarantine facilities. Quarantine being used to restrict the activities, separations of the persons in non-healthcare facility who were not ill but who might have been exposed to an infection agent or disease such as COVID-19 with the objective of monitoring symptoms and early detections of the cases. The places used for quarantines outside the cities of the country of COVID-19, people were widely disturbed in the province. The total number of the quarantine centers, 23,557 in all 139 cities of the Pakistan, which arise the good gesture which being used in this scenario throughout Pakistan to control the outbreak of the COVID-19. So the COVID-19 facilities countrywide is also shown at this table. Punjab is highest because their counting of the people is much than other provinces. So the facilities of the quarantine centers is increased here. So we can easily and judge the situation of the quarantine center provided by the government of Pakistan. So the testing facility in Pakistan, it is the reality here is the testing facility is low other than rich countries. So globally, PCR polymers chain reaction is used for COVID-19 tests, which are the best and easy method to methods. So Pakistani government also recommend the PCR method. In different cities across the country, Pakistan testing capacity increased from 30,000 to 28,000 and further enhanced to 99 lakh. So, in order to improve the testing facility, they worked with National Disaster Management Authority. This is a big institutions in Pakistan. Worked with National Institute Health to raise the current number of the coronavirus testing laboratories. The new testing labs would be set in the different cities across the countries. Pakistan is also launching a training program for the paramedics and laboratory staff to restore the deficiencies. So the cases that are shown in actually on the basis of the test facility in the Pakistan. So what is the situation nowadays in Pakistan? Pakistan is also affected in the third wave of the coronavirus nowadays. So here are around about 3 weeks the activities of the peoples and their ceremonies and their functions, their gathering and their jobs and their educational system is also disturbed here because the third wave of the coronavirus, mostly people are affecting nowadays in this. So the big province of the Pakistan, here is the 34 district in province of Punjab. So the 9 cities are totally banned lockdown. Here, all the activities, all the ceremonies, all the functions, all the activities of gathering and Rusul Quran and other activities are also banned here. So, the Pakistani government has decided to enforce the effective lockdown in the province city of Pakistan, where coronavirus positivity rate has soared to more than 12, as I said in the start of this presentation. Pakistan decided to lock down of the cities that are affected above the 12%. Pak government decided to lock down in affected city. Government didn't ban the whole country, but he decided to ban the affected cities who are affecting the coronavirus, and their counting and ratio is above 12%. During the lockdown, all the that will continue. First of all, decided at 28 March, and then it will increase on 11 April. Then the Federal Minister of Education announced that all the middle education institute will remain closed at 28 April, and secondary and higher secondary classes will be open on SOPs, under the SOPs with 50% of the total ratio will attend the classes from 19 April. And before the 19th April, they will also observe and will conduct a meeting and will see the situation of the COVID-19 spreading. They will again decide about that situation. The educational institute will remain closed or will open. So SOPs, because the annual exams of the students are also scheduled in next month, so it is also going to pending because there is not a system to conduct the examinations online. So the last step of my presentation is that vaccinations. because there are very many persons are going to affecting from coronavirus. But Pakistan is the country which have no facilitations of vaccination maximum. So according to the vaccination dose, and he decided, first of all, above 60 years old aged person will be provided the coronavirus. And then the second stage, 50 to 60 years persons will be provided the coronavirus. And first of all, they will provided the coronavirus vaccine who are affected from the coronavirus. So Pakistani government introduced a number 1166, and we can, every people of Pakistani can send their national ID card number to this number from any mobile, or he can visit the this website nims.nadra.gov.pk. Vaccination center and date will be communicated through the SMS. And when dose is confirmed, he will call at the centers and provided the vaccination to the person. So this is the shortly IPU arrangement and facilitation by the government of Pakistan regarding COVID-19 for the people of the Pakistani. So in this statement, in these lines, I will end my presentation. I will again thank to Mr. Brother Dr. Muhammad Ismail and Didi Hario and others management of this symposium, organizer of this symposium, and all the participants. I godly thankful to listening me. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, thank you very much to Professor Muhammad Akram. It's very interesting explanation about the arrangements of the government of Pakistan regarding to COVID-19. How the government of Pakistan arranged to fight the COVID-19. According to the Ministry of the Health, 4,004 cases in 24 hours, 102 deaths in 24 hours, and more than 1 million has been tested of the COVID-19. I think it's very, will be similar to other countries that
Yes.
the data, it will be going like that. However, I would like to invite if any question to the participant to give some questions to the Professor Muhammad Akram. If anybody would like to. Please, Bapak Ibu yang ingin memberikan pertanyaan. Maybe I would like to ask to Professor Akram, based on your slide, I saw that the isolation facilities the government provided, that the number of beds is higher than the others in different cities, such as Punjab is higher than the other cities. Could you please why?
The people of the yes, please.
What is the reason that the isolation facilities has high number of beds in Punjab?
Pakistan's have 6 main regions. And here the main regions called province. As their other countries, it calls states or districts or other. Now, where is the participation Pakistan and other 6 main regions called province, in which Punjab, Sindh, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and Balochistan, and 2 other independent states that are affiliated to Pakistan, Gilgit-Baltistan and Azad and Jammu Kashmir. So the highest people are living in the province of Punjab. The people are living in highest ratio here. That is why the all facilities are providing more than other provinces, because the people are living here in more than other provinces. So this difference is because of that.
Okay, thank you very much. Probably, ladies and gentlemen, would like to give some questions. Please, we have more time. Maybe we have to end this Professor Akram's presentation. So thank you very much to Mr. Akram for your very nice presentation. Hopefully, we can meet another meetings.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Muhammad Samsuri Muhammad Said to deliver his presentation. Dr. Muhammad Samsuri is from University Technical Malaysia, Malacca. I will give you 40 minutes to give the presentation. Time is yours.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. Thank you very much to the moderator and Prof. Akram and the rest of the participants. I think thank you very much for the invitation. I would like to actually share okay. So due to this last minute invitation, so I couldn't prepare in terms of the technical things, because my area is also not in technical areas, so I'll be what we call focusing on the leadership and communication. So Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Thank you very much. I'll be sharing with you in terms of leadership and communication and management in disaster and crisis mitigation. So I'll be looking from the human perspective instead of what we call the technology and engineering perspective. Hopefully, what I'll be sharing will be beneficial and useful to everyone in this session today. And I'll be actually discussing in brief and in general, not in specifics, of leadership and communication management in disaster and what we call crisis mitigation. So unlike Prof. Akram, which focuses on COVID-19, I'll not be doing that. Not focusing on, even though it's also a crisis. So when we discuss about leadership, it is actually one of the most important element in disaster or crisis management or mitigation. So this has been repeatedly discussed and what we call publicized in so many platforms, medias, or in research and whatnot. And I think the most common what we call views when we see or heard about crisis, one of the most important figure that we want to see in the field is actually it could be the leader of the countries or the leader of the communities, or the leader of what we call the groups, to be able to actually to be on the ground and being part of the action. This is something that is actually what we call common. Um, then and it's actually an expectation that many stakeholders actually expect when faced with crisis or a disaster, right? So, but I think this is actually not easy, to be a leader or to be somebody in the position to lead when facing with what we call disaster or crisis, because um, it is very stressful. The role and influence of the leaders are magnified. When we talk about magnified, ya, fokusnya itu tertumpu ya kepada pemimpin. All the focus are actually on the leaders. People expect. Sometimes it can be very uh, not rational, in terms of leaders has to actually solve everything there and then. Sometimes people expect leaders to be like Superman, but these are what we call the burden being shouldered by a leader when facing with crisis or disaster. Okay, this is because a lot of people, a lot of stakeholders, when they are in disaster or crisis, they seems to be stressed. They are uncertain. They are even afraid of the new reality. When we talk about COVID, as discussed by Prof. Akram just now, when we had the first what we call restrictions or lockdown, there are many what we call people who are not very sure, what to do, being, locked down in our own home. We cannot actually go out and whatnot. So these are what we call why this kind of situation happens, because not only one group of people are affected, but there are so many stakeholders that are affected. The frontliners are having their own what we call problems, having to deal with the lack of what we call PPE, for example, personal protection equipment. There's no vaccine, there's no cure, and then the community, for example. I think I had few discussion last year with Indonesian friends, from Makassar, from in Java, for example. So when we did discuss about the issue of COVID, for example, the issue of directive, whether we have to lock down the mosque or not, whether we actually there is no what we call the congregation prayers. Everyone has to actually uh, salat in their own homes. So these are what we call uncharted territory when disaster or crisis happens. Okay, and during this situation, it requires leaders that are having empathy, looking and understanding problems not from their own perspective but from the stakeholders' perspective. So this is very important, and having compassion. And I think more importantly is actually a leader has to be adaptable. This is actually not business as usual. This is actually business unusual. In so many crises and disaster, they will require changes and adaptation. So flexibility is actually one of the most crucial, what we call behaviors, styles, approaches uh, that has to be mapped or matched, to the context of disaster and crisis mitigation. So all in all, when we discuss about disaster and crisis, a lot of people playing important role, but having competent leaders that are adaptable, flexible, and equipped with empathy and compassion will help a lot in terms of what we call managing the situation in a better way. We have seen, for example, now I'm taking this report from Forbes. You know, not to say this is something that is rather surprising. When majority of the leaders, when facing with COVID, for example, majority of leaders of the country, majorities were or are men, yeah, but the one that is performing very well were women. you know you can see Chancellor, Angela Merkel, the president of Taiwan, Tsai Ing-wen, who has actually facilitated in terms of providing a lot of facilities for testing, for tracing and whatnot, and Taiwan became one of the most what we call successful country in containing COVID-19, at the early stage. They have a very low incidence of what we call COVID-19 cases in Taiwan. The same thing as Germany. Chancellor Angela Merkel was actually at the forefront, addressing the country, reassuring what we call the populations, the people of the country, telling them that she understood the fear. She knows what is going on the ground, and the same thing as what we call uh, the the Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern from New Zealand. She also, they managed to come up with several level of what we call the alert system, to indicate the seriousness of what we call COVID-19 spread in the community. So this allow, actions to be taken uh, on which area needs to be contained and which area needs to be given, freedom to move. So I think, and that's another one, the uh, Prime Minister or of Norway, for example, Erna Solberg, she, even to the extent, she had a special session with the kids, no adults are allowed. Beliau hadir ya sama-sama anak-anak ya untuk berkongsi ketakutan, berkongsi tahu mereka bahawa beliau juga dalam keadaan yang khawatir, takut dengan impak COVID-nya itu, tapi beliau berjanji bahawa beliau akan melakukan yang terbaik untuk kita katakan menjaga dan juga kita panggil menjamin keselamatan anak-anak ya. So this is actually when we talk about leaders, these are some of the what we call the human aspects of disaster and crisis mitigation that are very important, to be complemented with engineering and technology. We can have all the facilities, but if there are no human inputs and elements, technology can be rendered as what we call not effective. I think right now we are also having problems, in terms of convincing people to take the vaccine. We have the group, what we call people call as anti-vaxxers, for example, but no, I will actually go into not to say into details, but I'll explain further why leadership and important plays a role, in terms of what we call mitigating disaster and crisis. So one of what we call the most not to say popular, but I think the most comfortable leadership styles that I normally discuss is what we call the adaptive leadership. So being an adaptive leaders, we are able to actually adapt easily to the what we call challenging environment. Crisis, disaster brings about or brought about what we call challenging environment. COVID is actually one of the example. It's not easy, and I do understand that when we discuss about Indonesia, for example, we have about 200, if I'm not mistaken, 260, 270 million people, yeah, population, if I'm not mistaken. And then we have thousands of islands, from Papua to what we call Aceh, in Sumatra. And when I went to Jakarta in 2000, for example, I was informed that the what we call the distance between the east end of Indonesia to the west end of Indonesia is actually an 8 hour what we call plane ride, 8 hour flight travel from Kuala Lumpur to Jeddah. So that's how big Indonesia is, and coupled with a lot of what we call the islands, so you are an island nation, so it makes it more challenging in terms of what we call mitigating disaster or crisis. But having an adaptive leaders, with the listed qualities, will in a lot of ways will help in mitigating disaster and what we call crisis. And one of what we call the elements that is being discussed in adaptive leadership is actually get on the balcony and be on the dance floor. So this is example that there's been get on the balcony, meaning that we are sitting on top of everything. We are looking at the big pictures. When we talk about balcony, we are looking down at what is happening on the ground. We have the bird's eye view. But at the same time, there is also a very urgent need, for a leader during crisis to be on the dance floor, to be berada di lantai dansa, ya. Kenapa harus ada di lantai dansa itu untuk kita melihat dengan lebih dekat, lebih hampir apa yang sedang berlaku. Kalau situasinya COVID-nya kalau di Makassarnya itu gimana? Populasinya itu mungkin beda dengan populasi yang ada di Jawa, kan? Kalau yang di Jawa itu mungkin bedanya mungkin juga beda yang berada di Sumatera, kan? Dan juga ada beda yang mungkin di Papua. Jadi dari segi infrastrukturnya, dari segi kebutuhannya, dari segi keperluannya itu beda. So being on the balcony and being on the dance floor will allow a leader to be able to have the big pictures, overall, and at the same time having important details, how things are happening on the ground level. Okay, and then there is a strong need to have or to be able to identify what we call the adaptive challenges. These challenges, is not technical challenges, it's not routine one. Ini bukan yang terkait sama perkara yang rutin, bukan perkara yang kita katakan prosedur, tapi ini merupakan itu lebih kepada permasalahan yang berlaku melibatkan emosi, psikologi, sikap, attitude dan sebagainya. So saya kira kalau krisis, atau krisis atau konflik itu berlaku, yang lebih mudah diuruskan adalah berkaitan prosedur dan sebagainya, SOP, Standard Operating Procedure and whatnot. But to deal with what we call adaptive challenges relating to culture, relating to behavior, relating to practices, emotions and whatnot, are more difficult. So good adaptive leaders will be able to identify, whether this is actually only technical challenges that can be dealt easily, or it's actually that adapt that to have the right recipe or formula to deal it properly. Because it requires different challenges. And then there is a need to regulate distress. There are times that we need to actually make sure that people are having a very manageable stress level, so that they do go off and shoot off and eventually get lost or deviated from what they're supposed to do. Then there is a need to maintain disciplined attention, which is actually very important. And then a good leader, have to be able to identify the right talent and the right people to give them the responsibility, the work and the task plus responsibility to solve the problem, because we don't know everything. And then another thing that I did not mention was actually this is also, adaptive leadership is also called or known as leadership without answers. Ya, kepimpinan tanpa jawapan. Ya, kenapa saya bilang begitu? Sebagai pemimpin kita harus mengaku bahawa kita tidak mempunyai jawapan kepada semua permasalahan. Jadi yang terkait sama giving work, task back to the right people is very important. Kadang-kadang apa yang berlaku di Makassar sebagai contohnya mungkin lebih baik diserahkan kepada lokal, yang lebih memahami, penduduk yang lebih memahami, orang yang lebih memahami. Ya, walaupun sumbernya mungkin datang dari pusat, dari pemerintah, tapi mungkin ada ramai yang kita katakan di Makassar itu lebih memahami apa yang dibutuhkan, ataupun bagaimana sumber itu bisa kita katakan kendalikan dengan lebih baik, ya. Kemudian yang juga terpenting itu dalam krisis itu kita there is a need for leaders to protect leadership forces from below. Ini yang kita namakan sebagai the silent voices, suara-suara yang tidak kedengaran, kerana mereka enggak, kalau mungkin dalam keadaan biasa ini mereka orang-orang ini atau suara-suara ini tidak mewakili atau tidak berada dalam kita katakan hierarki pemerintahan atau hierarki pentadbiran atau hierarki administrasi, but they carry an important voice because these are maybe unelected or what we call unofficial leaders. We have leaders at all, banyak level, kita ada pemimpin itu di banyak tahap, jadi mungkin ada yang mereka ini yang tidak memegang kita katakan kepimpinan formal, tetapi mempunyai pengaruh terhadap kita katakan stakeholders, ataupun orang yang di bawah. Jadi kita harus bisa, sebagai pemimpin yang baik itu harus bisa mendengar, suara-suara ini supaya itu dapat membantu dalam konteks pengurusan krisis dan juga konflik, Dan saya kira mempunyai kualitas kepimpinan saja nggak cukup, kualitas kepemimpinan yang adaptif harus kita katakan juga mempunyai kualitas komunikasi yang baik, It has to be active, meaning that a leader doesn't have to wait or must not wait, but must be proactive, must be authentic, tulin, ataupun kita katakan authentic ini enggak berpura-pura, dan trusted, dipercayai. Okay, dalam but saya kira yang penting, terpenting adalah waktu krisis, ataupun konflik. Now when we talk about conflict and disaster management atau mitigation, there must be a communication plan that is agile and capable of dealing with uncertainty. Kita harus ada beberapa plan, strategi A, B, D, begitu, supaya enggak, kita katakan kalau ini enggak berhasil, maka kita bergerak kepada yang B. Kalau enggak berhasil B, kita C, D, dan seterusnya. And then leaders need cohesive. Cohesive means that has to be very tight. Harus kita katakan sangat jelas, scenario based, meaning that has to be based on apa yang berlaku di lapangan, harus ada kita katakan engagement, harus ada interaksi, kemudian harus didesain, untuk fleksibel, kemudian harus kita katakan maximize, untuk credibility supaya masyarakat percaya kepada maklumat atau informasi yang disampaikan. Ini sangat penting, Jadi saya kira yang kalau kita lihat di sini ya, so one of the kita katakan strategi yang bisa digunakan ya, diguna pakai, harus reinforce, the purpose, the corporate or community purpose has to be able to reinforce, harus diulang-ulang dan kita katakan consistent ya. Kemudian anchor on communication principles that reflect core values. Ya, harus dibangunkan berdasarkan kita katakan nilai trust, sama ada organisasi atau negara, ya, pemerintahan ataupun kita katakan kumpulan. What is the communication principles? Ya, employ creative platform and approach. Jadi now ya, kita sudah ada pelbagai medsos ya. What WA, kita ada Telegrams, we have the Bear, Facebooks, Instagrams, Twitters, Snapchats, so many things, emails. So there is a need to be creative on the platforms and the approach that we need to send messages. I still remember, saya masih ingat kalau di India dulu ada satu ketika kalau untuk menyampaikan informasi tentang kita katakan bekalan air itu ya, maka kalau orang kampungnya nggak bisa membeli smartphone ya, jadi mereka membangunkan satu aplikasi yang analog ya, jadi setiap kali lori airnya itu sudah sampai di satu tempat atau mungkin sebelum sampai di satu tempat itu sudah informasinya itu dalam teks yang bentuk analog ya, sudah sampai kepada orang kampung ya untuk bersedia, atau kalau sudah ketinggalan di mana bekalan air yang seterusnya itu bisa didapati. Okay, so this is what we call, employ creative platform and approach. Yeah, and then we need to be detailed. Yeah, so detail communication plan with against various scenarios. Ini yang saya namakan saya pinjam dari Boston Consulting Group ya. So when we talk about kita katakan fasa-fasanya itu, so we have to, these are one of what we call the most comprehensive communication plan that we can take ya. So we have to have purpose ya, kena ada objektifnya ya, kena ada communication principles ya, apa yang ingin disampaikan ya, core creative platform, apa yang platform mana yang kita ingin gunakan, medsos yang gimana ya, sama ada medsos ataupun kita katakan emails and whatnot ya. Kemudian kita ada fasa-fasanya, flatten, this is actually kalau COVID, this is actually one of the platform that we use. And then we have once we recover, the phase 2, we need to recover, and then this actually phase 3 is what we call a post recovery. Yeah, we do post recovery, and then I think for every phase ya, kita bisa lihat ada scenario A, scenario B ya, dan seterusnya. This is to prepare for any eventualities. Kalau message yang A-nya nggak berjaya, maka diubah. Kalau scenario-nya begini, ya ini harusnya message atau informasi yang harus disampaikan. Ini yang harus dikatakan. So these are what we call very very important ya, sangat-sangat penting ya. Dan saya kira kalau waktu krisis, saya kira yang harus seorang pemimpin ya, sama ada kita katakan pekerja ataupun rakyat ya, masyarakat ataupun stakeholders ya, orang yang ada kepentingan itu, maka a leader should be able to what we call develop solidarity ya. Perasaan kebersamaan itu harus bisa dibangunkan oleh seorang pemimpin ya, because we are in this together. Because kalau di Malaysia ini kita ada sedikit issues ya. Kalau SOP itu dibangunkan, maka yang melanggarnya itu pemimpin, itu sudah jadi tidak ada solidarity ya. Kita nggak mau kata kita harus lockdown, nggak bisa cross atau travel, tapi kita di sebaliknya kita lihat di medsos itu ada pemimpin yang melanggar, the standard operating procedures. They are the one, moving here and there, not for work but for something else. This is right now in Malaysia. We are having this kind of problem, So then it becomes, pointless, nggak ada, kita katakan nggak ada impact yang baik kepada undang-undang atau regulasi yang um, disuruh ikut, sebab nantinya orang akan kata, kalau pemimpinnya bisa aja lepas, kalau kita orang biasa itu nanti bisanya dihukum, jadi nggak ada solidarity, solidaritas itu nggak ada. So a good leader should be able to create sense of solidarity. I think we have to give our respect, to the Western countries, to mostly to the what we call it, whose leader are very what we call um, being together with the people. Kalau ada yang melanggar peraturan itu, maka nanti dia akan resign, melepaskan jawatan. So this is something that we actually should need in the leader. Then trust, trust in institutions, trust in the governments, the purpose, the potentials. So because from solidarity we can actually create trust, and then from trust we can develop confidence. So we are confident that the leaders will be able to handle the crisis and what we call disaster well. So this is very important. And then to achieve the goals, I think the leaders should be emphasizing on continuity. What I meant is actually, when we talk about the communication plan, it has to be very consistent, from the start until the end. If there are certain values that we need to share, then the values has to be consistent within the messaging. No, we know for the fact that COVID will change a lot of things, yes, but post-COVID, we are still, if you are Indonesian, we are still Indonesian, you are still Indonesian, and there are still, values that you will always, carry on practicing, pulang kampung, kalau kita katakan cuti atau libur Ramadan or Shawwal this year might not happen like before, or this year might not happen, as normal, but after COVID, if we are able to actually be disciplined and whatnot, then things will return to normal back. Okay, then we need to use down to earth languages. This is very important because we have people, communities with diverse backgrounds. Even though we use a lot of what we talk about efficacy of vaccine, for example, we have numerous what we call vaccine producers. We have Moderna, we have Pfizer, BioNTech, we have AstraZeneca, we have Sinovac by Sinopharm, we have Sputnik, for example, and whatnot. Then people are looking at what are the difference between this vaccine. How can we use down to earth languages to show that this is actually one of what we call our escape route, moving forward. So in Malaysia right now we are having this problem because we have the frontliners are given Pfizer vaccine, and then the second one is given Sinovac. People are questioning why they got a more effective vaccine as compared to Sinovac. So the government is having to, for me, they have to develop a communication program that explains that, why this vaccine is accepted despite they have a bit lower efficacy as compared to Pfizer, BioNTech, for example. Okay, so there are communication messages that need to use, easy to understand, what we call messages to a lot of people. Yeah. Then the last one is actually what we call deploying nuance messaging. Nuance is actually something that
Excuse me,
yeah,
Dr.
time is up.
Muhammad
Yep.
Samsuri. Yeah.
Okay.
You have 5 minutes left.
All right. So no, just one more slide. No
Yes,
problem.
please.
Okay. So deploying nuance messaging is that the messages has to be comfortable with the stakeholders, across different medium. Okay. So I'm not going to go what we call. This is actually the last slide. And then we need to provide clarity and resources. Yeah. And then has to be realistic. And then I think at the end of the day, it's about we want to show to people that having good communication programs, taking into account different people and different stakeholders, will allow people to be more secure, more less fear, so that we are all in this as one, as a team, not I'm not part of the problem, but we are, actually, facing the same problems. So thank you very much, for I think the opportunity. I hope that what I've presented is something beneficial to the participants and to the symposium. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Muhammad Samsuri, for your lecture today. uh, I would like to invite the participant to ask some questions.
Sorry.
If anybody want to ask directly to Dr. Samsuri, please, or you may type your questions on the box. Maybe you can speak Indonesia or bahasa. Okay.
saya bisa sedikit-sedikit ya.
Bapak Ibu yang ingin bertanya langsung boleh bahasa Indonesia, enggak apa-apa. Ya, mungkin Pak Dr. Samsuri terkait mengenai leadership, ini apakah mereka itu belajar atau itu adalah sesuatu yang seperti gift, pemberian?
Okay. Alright. Itu saya kira yang kalau persoalan begitu ya, ini yang sering menjadi kita katakan pertanyaan ya. Kalau kita studi leadership itu, is leader born or is leadership learn ya. So I think saya kira kedua-duanya itu valid ya. So in some people bagi setengah orang itu memang mereka itu dilahirkan dengan bakat kepimpinan ya. Tapi dalam banyak keadaan juga ramai orang yang menjadi pemimpin itu bukan dilahir sebagai pemimpin ya. Saya kira dan saya percaya ya, mungkin di sini ramai yang mempunyai pengalaman yang sama. Kadang-kadang orang menjadi pemimpin sebab nggak ada pilihan yang lain ya. Jadi dalam situasi yang begitu atau tertentu itu, maka nggak ada lagi orang yang bisa menjadi orang yang bisa berdiri di depan ya, mempunyai kekuatan dan juga kemampuan ya untuk kita katakan memimpin sama ada pekerja atau masyarakat ya, dalam menghadapi krisis ataupun kita katakan konflik yang dihadapi. And I think most of the time contoh Bapak Gandhi ya, misalnya ya, beliau bukan bercita-cita atau beliau bukan orang yang memang terkenal sebagai pemimpin dari awal ya, tetapi beliau adalah orang yang menjadi pemimpin sebab nggak ada orang lain yang mau berdiri di depan dan memperjuangkan kita katakan kebebasan India ya. So bagi saya kedua-duanya valid, tetapi leadership is something that we can learn, ya. Kepimpinan itu sesuatu yang kita bisa belajar, ya. Dan pelajaran itu adalah sesuatu yang berterusan, ya. Bukan terhenti kalau kita menjadi pemimpin, tapi berterusan sepanjang masa sehingga kita menuju ke liang lahat. Jadi konteks menjadi pemimpin as a gift, born with leadership qualities, betul dalam sesetengah keadaan, tetapi juga orang yang mempunyai bakat juga harus belajar, sebab saya kira pada ketika ini banyak perubahan, ya, yang berlaku dengan pantas, ya. Dengan kita katakan kedatangan teknologi, ya, sekarang industri leadership 4.0 sebagai contoh, ya. Jadi seorang pemimpin yang hanya ada bakat tetapi tidak memahami konteks revolusi industri 4.0 itu, nggak tahu bagaimana integrasi antara manusia dan juga mesin, for example. Okay? Jadi bagi saya itu harus ada kombinasi antara keduanya. Tetapi kalau nggak dilahirkan dengan bakat, saya kira tidak ada masalah yang besar. Ya, sebab kemampuan itu, kemahiran itu bisa digarap, bisa ditajamkan, ya. Selagi mana kita ada keinginan untuk terus belajar.
Ya, makasih Prof. Ini ada pertanyaan.
Ya.
Dalam kondisi bencana, apakah pemimpin lokal harus dipersiapkan sebagai upaya mitigasi jika pemimpin berasal dari luar komunitas, misalnya NGO, bagaimana membangun?
Oke, saya kira kombinasi antara keduanya itu yang paling baik, ya. Sebab keduanya ada kelebihan dan kekuatan masing-masing. Ya, tetapi yang saya kira banyak dalam beberapa keadaan itu ramai yang masuk dari luar itu tidak memahami konteks lokal. Jadi daripada memberikan satu penyelesaian yang baik, maka menjadi satu permasalahan, disebabkan mungkin ada, kita katakan, kepimpinan lokal itu yang dipinggirkan. Ya, seperti mana yang saya letakkan dalam start presentation saya tadi, give the work or task back to the right people. Ya, apa yang saya masukkan di sini adalah the right people adalah orang yang betul memahami situasi, kondisi satu-satu kita katakan disaster itu. Dan saya kira kalau orang tempatan itu lebih memahami, walaupun kepakarannya itu ada di luar, tetapi kemungkinan besar orang tempatan itu lebih memahami, ya, dari segi kita katakan struktur budayanya, ya, struktur kemampuannya, sosioekonomik dan sebagainya, maka harus ada gandingan antara keduanya. Nggak harus dipinggirkan orang lokal itu kerana mereka nggak sophisticated, karena mereka nggak ada, kita katakan, teknologi. As I said, a blend between the human aspect and the technological aspect, the outsiders view and the insiders view, ya, itu akan saya kira lebih memberikan satu kejayaan yang lebih efektif, ya, berbanding dengan hanya bekerja nafsi-nafsi, ya.
Ya, makasih. Mungkin satu lagi terakhir, Prof. Ini leadership seperti apa yang dibutuhkan dalam keadaan krisis musibah ini?
Oke. Sorry. Seperti yang saya bicarakan tadi, kan, mungkin studi kepemimpinan itu ada banyak teorinya, ya. Ada banyak gayanya, ada yang great man theory, ada yang kita katakan transformative, kepemimpinan transformatif dan sebagainya. Tetapi dalam konteks saya ini, saya cuma memilih satu, ya. Kita katakan sebagai kepemimpinan adaptif, ya, kepemimpinan yang bisa beradaptasi dan fleksibel. Ya, kenapa saya menekankan ini? Karena kalau kita lihat situasi disaster itu ataupun krisis, banyak perkara yang berlaku sebelumnya itu mungkin tidak terpakai lagi ataupun tidak berlaku lagi sewaktu krisis. Sebagai contohnya, kalau di Indonesia itu, kalau banyak berlaku gempa, misalnya, ya, waktu kalau bukan gempa itu mungkin kondisinya itu aman ya. Bisa minum, kita katakan mengikut kemahuan kita ya. Tetapi kalau berlaku gempa contohnya post gempa itu akan nanti akan ada the new normal ya. Regulate dari segi kita katakan minumnya berapa kali atau berapa banyak yang bisa diminum dan sebagainya mengikut kita katakan bekalan yang ada dan sebagainya. Jadi saya cuma hari ini meletakkan satu kita katakan framework of leadership ya dalam krisis yang saya kira sesuai, which is what we call adaptive leadership, yang mampu beradaptasi. Kerana sekiranya pemimpin itu mampu beradaptasi, dia bisa menangani ya kita katakan satu keadaan yang baru ya, yang berubah, yang kadang-kadang luar biasa ya, dengan banyak berlaku ketidaktentuan ya. Itu yang saya sharekan pada hari ini.
Ya, terima kasih Prof. Dr. Muhammad Samsuri. Thank you very much for your presentation. However, we have a limited time, so I will end this the second presenter. So I would like to welcome Professor Dr. Marcian C. Farai for your time. Hello, Prof. Merchant. Merkan. Prof. Merkan, are you there? Can you hear us?
Okay, good afternoon to all. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay. Good afternoon to my dear fellow researchers from other countries. I would like to share, sir, of my slides pertaining to my presentation. Okay. I am Professor Maricon Siviray, a faculty member of the Department of Public Administration, College of Public Affairs, Mindanao State University, Marawi City, Philippines. So here's my email address and my WhatsApp number. So this time I would like to discuss to you or share to you regarding the disaster risk reduction in our country. Like we have here a capital in Manila, which is actually affected by the major disasters. Because in our country, we have 20 typhoons in the year, and 5 of that is a major typhoon that can actually destroy the houses and other places and other establishments in a different location. So Philippines has been traditionally vulnerable to natural disaster and on account of its unique geoclimate conditions. Floods, droughts, cyclones, earthquakes, and landslide have been a recurrent phenomena, despite the fact that we cannot prevent an earthquake or typhoon from occurring or a volcano from erupting. We can apply the scientific knowledge and technical knowledge to disaster risk reduction. Because we have the natural calamity and we have the man-made calamity. And this natural calamity, we cannot actually control. But the man-made calamity, we can actually control. And we can have and apply the scientific knowledge and technical knowledge to disaster risk reduction. So supervision of disaster risk and disaster events is heavily dependent on scientific knowledge and evidence. Based technique, copying with hazard, whether natural or attributable to human activity, is one of the greatest challenges of the applications of science and technology. Last month ago, we have a one places in the Philippines are actually affected by the typhoon. And some places of the Philippines in Mindanao, their place is experiencing a flood and soil erosion. So the Republic of the Philippines is located in Southeast Asia, bordered by the Pacific Ocean to the east and West Philippine Sea to the west, and the Celebes Sea to the south. The Philippines constitutes our archipelago of 7,109 islands, with a total of area of approximately 299,764 square kilometers. And we have actually two major seasons. We have the rainy seasons and the dry seasons. And the rainy seasons, that is from June to November and December to May, that is a dry season. Now, the population in our country is approaching of 110,670,000. These are the calamities made by natural calamities in our country. The electric wires, the trees are actually fall down. We have the flash flood and the mad floods and the flooding of the waters and destroyed and distract the vast of the agricultural land. And not only that, the dikes, the bridges is actually destroyed because of this natural calamity. So in the overview of disaster located along the typhoon belt in the Pacific, the Philippines is visited by average of 20 typhoon every year. Imagine that, 20 typhoon. So, and the five of that is actually the super typhoon. So meaning, if we say super typhoon, it can destroy even the lives, even the houses, the agricultural crops, and even the the things that we have. Then being situated in the Pacific Ring of Fire, that is why that the Philippines has a 20 typhoon because we are in the ring of the Pacific Fire. And it makes vulnerable to frequent earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. So in the main volcano in the Philippines, like we have in the Taal, we have a lot of volcanoes in the Philippines. One is the active in the in the Taal volcano in the Manila. So its geographical location in the Philippines environment also contributes to its high susceptibility to tsunami because of the sea level rise, storm surges, landslide, flood, flash flood, flooding, and drought. So in the recent major disaster in our country, the eruption of the Mount Pinatubo that was June 1991 was the largest volcanic explosion of the 20th century in our country. About 40,000 houses were destroyed and more than 70,000 houses were damaged. And we have the super typhoon, like international name is Haiyan, that last November 2013, locally known as Yolanda, entered by the Philippine Responsibility Area of Responsibility or PAR last November 6, 2013, and created new history for the Philippines. It affected a total of 3,424,593 families, or 16,078,181 persons. And persons killed by the typhoon is 6,318. I remember that day because in our place in Iligan City in Cagayan de Oro was actually affected. Many lives are can I see to along the streets. Many lives was lost and it smells bad because of the Yolanda. And a lot of people in our country, especially in Iloilo City in the Philippines, they are super affected. Their houses was lost, their business is lost, and some infrastructures in that place, in that location, was actually destroyed. Now it destroyed 1,140,332 houses and damaged a total of 19.6 billion pesos worth of infrastructure and 20.3 billion pesos worth of agriculture. So in Luzon in 1990, that is earthquake. 7.6 magnitude occurred in the central Luzon, killed 2,412. Affected is 1,597,553 and destroyed 100,000 houses with the estimated total loss of $250 million. As you can see in the picture, this was actually the recent typhoon in our country. So many houses were actually affected because of the flood, and they have uh, the high rise of the water coming from the sea. And the legal system in creating the disaster management system in May 27, 2010, the Republic Act 1012-1 or the Philippine Disaster Risk Reduction and Management or the PDRRM Act in our country was passed into law and paved the way for the need to adopt a disaster risk reduction and management approach that is holistic, comprehensive, integrated, and proactive in lessening the socio-economic and environmental impacts of disaster, including climate change, and promote the involvement and participation of all sectors and all stakeholders concerned at all levels, especially the local community. So this PDRRM was created by the national government to address the needs of the people in our country, to address the needs especially in the disaster risk reduction, of how the government can actually help to the affected families when it comes to have a natural and man-made calamity. The Act provides for the development of policies and implementation and measures pertaining to all aspects of disaster risk reduction and management, including good governance, risk assessment, and early warning, knowledge building, and awareness raising, reducing underlying risk factors, and preparedness for effective response and early recovery. In the compliance of Republic Act 1012 law, 1012-1, because this was a law, the Council adopted on June 2011 the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management. Because from the national level down to the local level, we have the disaster risk reduction management. Meaning to say, the delegation, we have um, the centralized delegation of the DRRMM. So the safer adapted, so the framework of NDRRM indicates the paradigm shift toward the proactive and preventive approach to disaster management. The goal of this is to be more effective towards attaining the goal to address the needs of the people, especially when the calamity comes in our country. As what said earlier, that in our country we have 20 typhoon in a year, and five of that is a super typhoon that can destroy the houses, the infrastructures, the lives, the agricultural um, crops in our country. So it is also highlight that the need for effective and coordinated humanitarian assistance, because if the people are actually affected by this calamity, by this typhoon, the man-made and the natural calamity, one of the things that our national government should address how to help the people in times of needs, like giving assistance, the food, the clothing, and the shelter, and the vulnerable groups during the immediately after the disaster. So the National Disaster Risk Management Council being empowered with policy making, coordination, integration, and supervision, monitoring, and evaluation function. They are actually to evaluate, supervise, monitor from the national level down to the local level, because the power has given or delegated to the local levels. So in the Republic Act 7077 assists in relief and rescue during disasters or calamities. We have the Armed Forces of the Philippines, the Philippine National Police, that can actually help to rescue, to assist during the disasters or calamities. We have also the Office of the Civil Defense. The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council shall have the primary mission of administering comprehensive national civil defense and disaster risk reduction and management program by providing leadership in the continuous development of strategic and systematic approaches, as well as measures to reduce the vulnerabilities and risks to hazard and manage consequences of disaster. The plan by the National Disaster Risk Management in RA Republic Act 10121 of 2010 provides legal basis for policies. We have the disaster prevention and mitigation, disaster preparedness, disaster responses, disaster rehabilitation and recovery, which correspond to the structure of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management. When disasters happen, Filipinos have little recourse. Only a faction have insurance or any claim to property ownership. So many of the buildings is actually damaged by the high-end typhoon. For instance, so informal settlements made lightweight materials, bamboo wood with corrugated metal roofs. In the theory, the disaster opens the way to improvement. Cities can be rebuilt using more concrete certain areas. We hope that something like Haiyan will turn the tide right now. You will all have this international aid flowing. I hope it will go into building resilience so things aren't rebuilt just as they were. I would like also to introduce to you the school that I am work with, the Mindanao State University, located in Marawi City, Philippines. It is the melting pot of the South. If you would like to visit in our university, feel free to approach me. I leave my email address and WhatsApp number in our chat box. So this is our location. So this is I work with. So majority of our students, faculty, and staff, the workers of the Mindanao State University are Muslims. So the Mindanao State University was actually created, Republic Act 1387 as amended, by the late Senator de Macao Alondo. So MSU was formally organized into the Dr. Antonio Cedro, the Vice President for Academic Affairs of the University of the Philippines. So we have in the June 13, 1962 with 282 students from provinces and cities in Mindanao, Sulu, Calauan, Visayas, and even as far as Luzon. So this is our graduation. During graduation, this is one of the buildings in our university, and this is the entrance when you enter to our university. So this is also one of the building, the IPDM, the Integrated Peace and Development. This is the College of Natural Sciences and Mathematics. This is also the Administration Building. So we have the mission vision, Okay, and we have the colleges of the Mindanao State University. We have the agriculture, the business, and accountancy, education, engineering, information technology, restaurant management, fisheries, forestry, environmental studies, up to the College of Law and the College of Medicine. Thank you so much for listening to me, and I hope that you learned something regarding to my discussion. Wassalam.
Thank you very much to Professor Macon. It's about disaster risk reduction, how to reduce the disaster by good management system, good leadership, and well-planned organized. So, participant could give some question to Professor Mason talking about the disaster. So please ask directly, or you may type on the chat box. We have 5 to 10 minutes left before we close this session. Ayo Bapak Ibu yang ingin bertanya, silakan. Maybe I'm Prof. I would like to ask leader a question. What do you think about a good management system in around the world? Is it now well, or what do you think about it?
Sir, pardon your question, please. The internet connection is not actually stable here.
Oh yes. What do you think about a good management system in disaster mitigation? Is well organized now, or
In actually in the different countries, they have their own disaster risk reduction management. Like for example, in your country, in India and Indonesia, they have different styles and how different styles and lead and how to address the needs and how to address and resolve these disasters and calamities in our country. Now, as I can see, maybe perhaps they need to improve. We have to improve in every country. We have to improve our our risk reduction management and how to address the natural, the man-made, and the natural calamities in your country, in our country, and other countries. As a matter of fact, sometimes we have the bayanihan, or we are actually give to our donations to our country when it comes to um, disaster, when they have typhoon, when they are affected. But on the other hand, we are having a poor collaboration to the other countries so that in the disaster risk response may improve. Thank you.
okay, thank you very much. Mungkin Bapak Ibu yang ingin mau bertanya, please. Maybe there is no question anymore. So I would like to say thank you to Professor Marcon uh, from Philippines. Thank you very much
Thank you so
for your
much.
time, and have a nice day.
Thank you so much, sir.
Bapak Ibu, saya ingin menginformasikan bahwa untuk session kedua telah berakhir. Oleh karena itu, Bapak Ibu silahkan istirahat sejenak dan akan dilanjutkan ke sesi berikutnya. Saya juga ingin menyampaikan bahwa ucapan terima kasih kepada Universitas Andi Jema, Kabupaten Lu Utara, Bank BPD Sulsel, dan Momen Studio untuk kegiatan kita ini. Baik Bapak Ibu, dengan berakhirnya presentasi dari pembicara dari Malaysia, Thailand, Filipina, dan Pakistan, maka berakhir pula acara session kedua kita. Saya akhiri dengan ucapan Alhamdulillahirrabbilalamin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Masih ada? Enggak ada, Mi? 3 G speakernya. Masa? Kalau sesuai jadwal